Namaste, world raisers. So we are back at Sant Ravidas Park. I absolutely love it here, so I'm gonna keep making videos from here. But I did go out early this morning. Left at 4 o'clock this morning, and I went to the Kal Bhairav temple. So as you guys know from yesterday's video, I ran into some guys that said that that's the first temple that you need to visit. So yeah, finally made it there. So I did not know that. So now I went and I got her done, and I made the offerings, prayers, circumambulated 3 or 4 times, and then just felt the presence, the power, and the energy, the frequency. And then, especially when I went into that inner sanctum. So I got to go in there, and then the main temple priest, he gave me a glorious blessing where I had to repeat a mantra after him. And then I bent over, and then he patted me on the back a bunch of times, and then hit me on the head with the stick. And then, of course, gave me this, and then gave me, one of these bracelets. I'm pretty sure the red one. So, or it might have been the black one. I can't remember which one I got in the inner sanctum, because it was a bit of a blur. But anyway, so I want to talk about prayer, right? So when we pray, a lot of people pray selfishly, right? And they pray for themselves. But in reality, in order to activate a prayer, we got to pray for the capacity to be able to serve others, right? And to pray for others, because then we're accessing a deeper, more expansive part of our own soul, our own Atman, and we're actually expanding it to the point that we're bringing more light and love into the world, right? So when we're praying for just selfish desires, and I know there's negative situations in the world that we all face, but in order to have a better chance of overcoming these difficulties, we need to expand ourselves, right? To the point where we're allowing blessings to come in. And by doing that, it's becoming, letting go of our selfish tendencies, right? So in the temple, I'm praying for the world. I'm praying for everybody watching my videos. I'm praying for all of my subscribers and my channel members that have stuck around, even though I haven't been posting videos in like forever. I'm so incredibly grateful. So that's another thing, is then getting into the frame of mind of gratitude. Just being grateful to be on this planet, to be in the world right now, is the greatest opportunity. So I first came across that teaching in Tibetan Buddhism, where we have access to all of these divine teachings in a matter that has never occurred before. With the internet, you can search for anything and discover it, right? So we have to have that intention to seek the wisdom, the highest wisdom. I recommend you might as well just get it over it and take the deep dive. Seek the highest truth. And then through that, it doesn't mean they're going to be liberated right away, like I discovered. There's still going to be some things that you have to go through and then suffer accordingly. But at the same time, you got to wonder, would that suffering, to that extent, would it have occurred if I didn't have, a high intention of ultimately, enlightenment, so liberation, moksha? Because the true liberation and moksha is coming from letting go of the suffering, right? The base desires. And then we can just be without any expectations, any requirements of others. It's very much about our inner state and then maintaining that. So it doesn't mean we go through the world just, blind and passive and letting people treat us, wrongly. No, we have to have our boundaries in place and self-respect. So we respect ourselves and we love ourselves unconditionally first. And then that way we don't need anything, from anything. And then we're able to contribute, and share and really help raise the vibration. So for those who can get into the higher states of, courage, willingness, acceptance, reason, right? We got to be reasonable when we're dealing with others. It's a mutual respect because we're all in this together, right? So when we're talking about the lower levels of consciousness, right? Pride, vanity, greed, lust, desire, hate, envy, jealousy, all of these qualities of the base, lower levels, frequencies, they cause us to behave in a way that's, disrespectful to others, right? So highest teachings of non-duality are stating very clearly that we're all part of the same source. So there's two main ways to look at the universe, is that we're all one in reality, one ultimate reality manifesting as all forms, or one family, right? So non-duality is stating that the consciousness within me is the same consciousness as within you. But of course, we're stuck in form and duality. We perceive each other as separate. So then we can say that, okay, even though I'm different and I'm separate from you, I believe that we're coming from the same source. So one family, right? And then to truly act that way. So prayer is very much in line with that. We're praying for the benefit of other sentient beings, all of them. And there's so much suffering and poverty in the world, right? And then there's also so much abundance at the same time. So those who are able have to, be generous, right? Give, help. And how to do that constructively, because we don't want to interfere with other people's journey and other people's karmas, but at the same time, there needs to be a fine line. We can't just let everybody suffer in poverty and homelessness and starvation, thinking that, that's just their karma. Well, what about our karma, right? For the higher ups of society, if they have, if they're just thinking that, that's their karma, it's none of my business, and then they're just lapping in the seat of luxury, well, then they got a big eye-opener, because it's very, very apparent that it's very difficult to attain moksha, liberation, when you're hanging on to a bunch of wealth, right? So greed is a really, really big problem. So they got to pray, right? So even for everybody, and for rich people, they can pray for the capacity to understand, what to do. So pray, meditate, what can I do? What's my calling, right? So to have an inner calling to be able to do something worthy. And there's so many NGOs and people doing good. I'll maybe make a video later of a few dogs that I saved. They got ran over in the middle of the night right outside my guest house. Ran over 3 little baby puppies. And it was a family of 5 puppies. So I got in touch with an NGO and a motel just on the outskirts of Varanasi, and they came with a animal ambulance and then rescued these puppies. But in the locals, a lot of people were like, oh wow, you're so incredible, because until I got involved, the puppies, some of the local boys took these puppies to just off the street beside this old abandoned car. And basically the 3 puppies were just going to be left, to die. So anyways, 2 of them passed away, but 1 of them will be saved. And then, so 3 of them, because the animal hotel took all 3, or all 5 of them, right? So anyways, and then somebody's adopting 1 of them. So it's a touching story, but it's just about finding something to do that can be of benefit, to others, right? So prayer, and why I pray for India so much is that, as Indians and Hindus, they spread to other parts of the world, and it's a real big desire for a lot of them to leave. And then the ones that are holding on to that desire, that's like a prayer, right? You're sending that out to the universe, where I want, abundance. And a lot of people are holding in mind that India is not the place to be. Like just about everybody I run into is like, oh, I want to go to Canada. Canada's so amazing, try to help me get to Canada and get me a job in Canada, right? So they're seeing foreign nations as just the salvation, right? Well, not anymore, because everybody's having a hard time finding work everywhere. And there's so many, immigrants everywhere now that it's transforming the landscape of all of these foreign countries as well. So what's the solution? If all of the people are holding on to a desire to exit India instead of a desire to help make India great and better, then there's a problem. So if we can arise that prayer and that desire amongst Hindus to, instead of desiring to go elsewhere, because it's law of attraction, whatever you hold in mind tends to manifest. And when you have, a desire for something, you're going to pursue that, right? So instead, shift the tables and then pray for India, right? Really pray for India, because I visualize an India that's, to a glory, not seen since ancient times, right? So it's been over 1,000 years since there's been invaders. And then, of course, the British for 200 years. And it's really distorted the mentality and the landscape, right? So much so that, now it's just stricken in poverty. And then there is the upper class and the wealthy, but they're very much in their own little bubble, just like the wealthy from all over the world, right? So instead of, praying and wishing to leave India, I'm putting it out there for Hindus in particular to really rise up and pray for finding a calling within India. Because if you get like a whole bunch, like millions and millions of Hindus that all of a sudden switch that mind state to what can I do in India? Because it's not the best. It's like gambling to think that you're going to go elsewhere when there's a bunch of people that are doing just fine. They have a mission and a purpose and a vision for a business or a nonprofit or anything really, even a small business, and you're able to survive, quite comfortably, right? So, and then also we have the people holding on to that. They'll evolve themselves eternally to be of higher vibration, higher level of consciousness. And then that raises the field of India in particular, right? So I see that as a factor. Is like back in the day, a lot of people who had this desire and this ambition, and I know a lot of Indians. I used to go quite often to the Indian temple, the Hindu temple in Grand Prairie, where I was living, and all of them are doing really, really, really well, right? They're thriving. But that's that mentality that needs to be brought back and then kept within India. And then, then there's prosperity and abundance, because we know that there's a lot of wealth coming to India with all the trade wars going on in the world. India's turning into a manufacturing superpower. And then you have new governments, and then, people voting in who they want to represent them. I'm not going to talk too much about government and politics and whether it's good or bad. And people always want to talk about, corruption, trickles down. And you can see that, but it's not just here, it's everywhere. So it's up to the people. So it's up to the people who really want to actually, in their heart, understand what liberation and moksha entails. It entails purifying the negativities, right? And you can still be aware of everything negative happening, and that, you have to survive and you have to look after yourself. But when you're flowing from a higher purpose of, okay, I want to be successful in order to help others, right? In order to benefit society. So then all of a sudden we're living for the whole, right? Which helps to make us more whole. So hold it in mind, go to the temples, yes, but the true temple is within. The true journey is within, and you can connect with these deities. But the connection, it doesn't happen externally at the temple, at the altar, at the deity externally. It helps within, to the deity within. So they're an external representation of an absolute, supreme deity, right? Within the cosmic infinite field of consciousness. And we could tap into these energy frequencies. So for Kal Bhairav, for example, the god of time and death, right? So to truly conquer, the fear of death from within, and to conquer fear in general, right? And to conquer the lower base desires and to, eradicate them. So the story goes that Kal Bhairav manifested, from Shiva in order to smite Brahma, so cut off one of his heads. So, and that was when Brahma was getting too egotistical. So we got to keep that in mind and keep our ego in check. So when it's doing something that we know is negative, we got to do the work, go within, pray to the deity, but then actually let go of that tendency, repent and desire not to behave that way anymore. So the Kabbalistic mystical tradition, explains it very well, right? So we got to see when we get triggered or see when there's a negativity arising within us, right? Like greed or anger or lust or just a reaction, and we get upset because of somebody else's behavior. Then it's like, oh, well, that's my karma, that's my tikkun, that's my soul's correction. That's the very purpose for me to be in this realm. It's what I need to work on. Because there's no liberation, there's no salvation or enlightenment or opening of the heart, without taking care of these base negativities, right? So very much caught and trapped in the body. So a lot of, collective karma. And not just collective karma, but generational trauma. And you can see it. Just, land's been conquered for 1,000 years. And basically treated horribly. And then it seeps into the mentality of the people. And it's not just here, it's everywhere. Suffering is everywhere. Even in my own, family. Like, why was I in such a state of suffering for so long? Is due to the generational trauma. So generation to generation, nobody's really healing or overcoming their base tendencies, and then the children just not raised lovingly. So and then that's a choice, because we got to remember a divine play, right? So we're all souls manifesting into these physical bodies in order to experience what we need to experience in order to evolve. So it's almost like the downward trajectory brings us to this state in order for us to rise, right? So it's the coming out of the suffering through the spiritual work that leads to the higher realms. So it's very much a roller coaster ride of the suffering, and then you got to bear it. You got to deal with it. You got to overcome it. Not just time, but practice. But eventually you'll come out of it, and then you'll be, boom, reborn, next highest version of yourself. So that's the mission. That's the dream. That's the purpose. So reflect. If there's anything that you need to work on, especially if you're the younger generation, it's the most important thing, right? Especially when you're looking at getting into relationships and stuff. A functional relationship is not going to happen if there's any sort of lack or unfulfillment within yourself. So very much, fortunate to be able to do the spiritual work now and to actually understand, okay, if you could do that at a young age, then you'll be set, because then you'll know, okay, I'm, being disrespected, that's not good. So then you just, you don't allow that. You don't accept those people into your lives. It's not about changing them. It's about changing yourself so that the right people will enter into your life. So so I pray for that. I pray for you. I pray for all of India, and then I ultimately pray for the world. that we might all figure it out, raise our levels of consciousness, and raise the world, because we're sitting within an infinite field of collective consciousness, and the human mind, the human field, is one vibration collectively within the field. So by raising yourself is how it's done. Raise yourself, raise the world. So don't forget to meditate with me. Yeah, I screwed up on the live stream today. I went live, but it was unlisted. But anyways, the video is up now, so go check it out. Go Om with me, and of course, I'm gonna hopefully figure out a little bit better so it's scheduled, and then let that manifest. But I'm still gonna do it. I'm gonna Om for the world every day, especially while I'm here in Varanasi. So I love you all. Thank you for listening. Do the work. Don't just think that the temple is outside of yourself. Everything is within. And then seek to overcome the negativity within you. Trust me, it feels good. So raise yourself, raise the world. Peace.